Yay Networks.
Welcome back to In the Cards and Stars. I'm your host, Brit Mogensen. And in this episode, you guys, I was just thinking about how we could close out Virgo season. And truly, Virgo season is always a season that's been really important to me because I'm a Virgo. You know, I've talked about that. If you guys listen, you know that. And this season was really different. I gotta say, there were so many retrogrades still going on. And Virgo really is a sign about healing. It's about going within and finding your self-worth. Not everybody knows this about Virgo. I didn't really know this about the sign of Virgo till a little more recently, but Virgo, even though Virgo is associated with being the healer, Virgo is known to put themselves last. Virgo energy is known to sometimes shrink down when you really need to stand up. And I've experienced that theme throughout my life many, many times. That's actually how I met Candace about a decade ago. And she's our guest for today. At the time when I first connected with Candace, I was signed to a modeling agency. I didn't know what to do with my life. I was definitely in a crisis. And I found her on YouTube. I was trying to figure out some issues, family of origin stuff, self-worth stuff. I was in my 20s. It was just a whole mess. And I connected with her and she instantly made me feel understood. She is someone who is a healer. She's a clairvoyant. She is somebody that is really great at just knowing what it is that you have inside of you going on, and she can just see it. She is going to be sharing with us on this episode some really cool stories of her having those psychic moments. She is going to be telling us how we can use this Virgo season and all the retrogrades to heal and kind of sort ourselves back out. You know, Virgo, even though it's a sign, like I said, that does work through self-worth issues, right now collectively in this Virgo season, not only were we working through those issues, but we were also trying to get organized again, you know, whether that's mental or emotional organization. It's different for everybody, but that's Virgo's strength and high point. So Candace is here to help us sort ourselves out. She's going to help us get rebalanced so that in Libra season, which is coming up at the end of this week, we can really step into a more balanced version of ourselves and not repeat any negative cycles. So this episode, I had so much fun talking to Candace. She is just a soul sister. I think you guys are going to just love her. She's got great resources, really cool stories. We also read her birth chart, and she's another one whose birth chart just is dead on. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's chat with Candace. We have just the perfect person to help us heal, to help us feel, figure out what's going on. And that is Candace van Dell. Candace, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see you.
It is so good to see you. Candace and I, we connected about 10 years ago. I had to look it up and I did it by numerology cycle because I'm in a 7 personal year now and I was in a 7 year then. I know it's weird. That's how I remember things.
That's so interesting.
But it was a spiritual year. And this is also a spiritual year. And you are a spiritual healer. You're an intuitive. Will you tell everybody about what you do? Because you really have so many different things that you bring to the table with your teachings.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of evolved, but it really comes from developing clairsentience and clairvoyance and really tuning into a client's inner child, tuning into just universal wisdom and using my own experiences with a different type of understanding, but really an emotional intelligence to help others heal themselves. I guess that's the best way I could say it.
Yes. And your YouTube channel was how I originally found you a decade ago. And I remember I was in a pretty rough place, and what you talked about healing your inner child, feeling so that you can heal, really, like you said, tapping into your own wounds and understanding where they come from, understanding your triggers, your cycles, your patterns. You helped me so much at a time when I really needed it. So first of all, I want to thank you for that. And
amazing.
Yes, it's true. And that's why I wanted to bring you here because, like I said, for our intro, this Virgo season really was meant to bring people to a place where they could identify what they need to heal. Because Virgo is the healer of the zodiac, or one of the healers. And Virgo is about wellness, about finding alignment, purity. And so we've been kind of through some tests this past Virgo season. So will you
Big time.
Yeah, will you tell everybody about tests and how they help us to find out what we need to heal and how we can come to the other side of it?
Yeah, let me tell you the biggest misinterpretation with tests, or people think they're getting tested because they did something wrong or they're being punished. And what I like to say is you're being tested because you're ready to graduate. But what we do is we forget all the lessons we've already learned to apply them, and we start to have doubt because this thing is happening to me, not for me. If you start seeing that this is happening for you so you can get to the next level by showing what you've learned, then you don't have to repeat this pattern. That is what's tested.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And that was one of the questions I wrote in my journal to ask you, was about how we can identify the patterns so that we can balance them in Libra season and not relive them for a whole nother cycle. So you said the worst, right?
Yeah.
And we do that sometimes. And it's just the most frustrating thing. So sometimes these challenges are good, right? They bring it up so that we can heal it, we can fix it. You always talk about feeling to heal. Will you explain that a little bit?
Yes, I'll tell you. The majority of people who feel stuck, feel like they're in a false self, feel like they're in a traumatic relationship, feel like they're just not in purpose, is because they haven't felt their feelings. And when we feel, we heal. And what happens is people will try to shop it away, drink it away, relationship it away, status it away, all these things away so they don't have to feel these negative emotions. What we do is we try to cope by having these mechanisms externally. And what we really need to be doing is allowing ourselves to feel it without identifying with the feeling. If we say, oh my gosh, I'm depressed, I did this, then we actually can't heal it because we run from feeling shame or pain or guilt. But instead we have to look at it like it's washing through us like a wave. Like I'm having an emotion. The reason we have emotions that we need to feel is so they don't get stuck. If they get stuck, they're stuck emotion. And then you're kind of incubated at that time that trauma happened. So what we have to learn to do is neutrally observe our feelings so they're not threatening or overwhelming. Let the feeling in. We acknowledge it. We have to validate it, acknowledge the feeling. Okay, I give it a name. This is shame. Instead of going into what the shame is making you feel, just notice that it's shame. Be okay with it. Don't resist it. If you resist it, it will stay longer. Let the shame be there. Say, oh, okay, I'm okay with shame. I accept shame. This is crazy. I see that is there. I love myself anyway, and let it go. And the more you validate it without resisting it, the faster it leaves. And you'll be like, whoa. What we have to understand is our emotions are absolutely temporary. What we're afraid of, because no one taught us how to really soothe ourselves as children, is we're afraid of the overwhelm of the emotion that we won't make it out of it. And what we have to understand is if we identify with the emotion, say the feeling is shame, and we're like, I'm shameful, you're right. It's not going to leave because now it's your identity. Ooh. But if you notice it as something I'm feeling, not who I am, the feeling can leave me. I'm not leaving with the feeling.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Candace. I love that. Wow. It's like staying grounded within yourself. And in the context of like retrogrades and things going on, when I read people's birth charts, which we're going to do for you soon, which is exciting. But people will say like, are you going to tell me something bad? Or like, I don't want to know what's going to happen. And like, that makes me think of what you just said, because it's like all of these things that happen, or that maybe we even find in our birth charts, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. But the cool thing about that is that we don't have to fully identify with those things. It's just a part of life. It's not who we are. So there's nothing to be afraid of when you come from that place, which I like that a lot.
This is something else with what you said that I like to tell all my clients is we have to anchor in a true sense of self so that when anything comes up, you go back to one. But so often when we're not properly emotionally mirrored as children, or we have some unresolved trauma, we don't really know our true self-identity.
Yes.
That was where I started my career, is really getting to my true self and figuring that out, because I grew up with a lot of shame and uncertain identity. And when I really stripped all that away and I was like, wow, who I am no matter what happens is a really good person, then we know that anything you hear about yourself, opinions or achievements or failures, it doesn't matter. It's not who you are. It's what's happening. It's what you're going through, but it's not who you are. And we have a really strong sense of divine self. You will be fine in any situation.
Yeah.
It is true.
I love that. And you talked about how, you really did. And again, when we get to your birth chart, we're going to see, you have such an interesting layered path, career, which is probably why you can also relate to so many different people in different walks of life, because you do this, but you've written books as well. You've contributed to magazines. You've been on the cover of magazines. She's modeled. She's been an actress. I mean, you've done so many things, Candace. And do you feel like each time you did those things, you were kind of getting to experiment with another, how do you view transition in life when it is a 3D thing, like a career or a relationship?
Yeah. So I see everything as perfection in the process. I tell a lot of clients they want to go from here. Yeah. They want to go from here to here. And I say, sometimes you have to be a dentist to become the artist that you're supposed to be by learning the detail. For me, I see my modeling and acting career as traveling the world, learning different cultures, learning how to speak to anyone. Acting helped me be in front of the camera. I'm super comfortable on YouTube. Anyone that I meet, I feel like they're family. I've just been everywhere and done so many things, but I'll also say that I loved being in the modeling and acting world to see how much it doesn't matter and how societal ideals have nothing to do with your divine reals. They really don't. Your universal laws and your societal ideals are completely separate. And so many people find a false identity in society when the truth is that was created by people, not God. So when you're created by God, whether you fit into society or not, doesn't really matter. What matters is that biological need to belong, but it shouldn't have anything to do with your self-worth. And so to be in a position where I was praised and I was on magazines and I was on TV and movies, it didn't matter at all to me because it didn't heal any of my wounds. And when I started doing all this work, I was like, wow, my real worth comes from all the inner work, not all the external everything that I had. And that's what people need to know. No matter how successful or beautiful or wherever you get, your wounds are the same. So you might as well do the inner work.
You might as well do the inner work. Just go ahead and start now. Because
do the inner work. Do the inner work.
Do you identify with this too? I feel like the more things that I have achieved that I wanted to achieve, as soon as I got there, it's almost like it would trigger my insecurities more because I'd be like, oh, well, now if I'm in front of everybody, they're going to see me. It's like, well, this is what you wanted. And then my inner child started to really freak out. Is that something that you've seen or experienced?
I have not experienced it, but I have seen it a lot, which is a fear of intimacy, of truly being seen for who you are.
Yeah.
So the inner child is guiding you to do that. And then it gets scared once you get on the pedestal because you're like, whoa, maybe they'll see something that I'm not sure about, or I'm still ashamed. And that's why I say it's important to do all your shadow work, your golden shadow and your dark shadow. So that for me, if someone criticizes something I do, I'll be like, that's cool, but I don't agree. Or because I know all myself, or I'll say, oh, that's cool. Let me look into it. But when you know yourself so well in and out and you have a confidence about your flaws and your gifts and everything, when people say negative or positive things to you, it doesn't change your vision of self. So you wouldn't be afraid of getting more seen if you're super, super anchored in your core self.
Oh my god.
What that tells me is some of your identity was a little bit based on external opinions. That's why.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, she's correct. So, it's this just feels so, honestly, so perfect at the end of a Venus and Virgo retrograde cycle. The fact that you're talking about this stuff and yes, I feel like just a collective yes. So when you talked about the golden shadow and the dark shadow, are there different types of shadows or will you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So the golden shadow is actually the most important part for people to do when they're stepping into purpose. So we get really aware of our dark shadow. So you're a really good example of doing golden shadow work. You are in your golden, but I'm going to show you someone that didn't do golden shadow work or was afraid of their shine couldn't be in the spotlight. So golden shadow are the really beautiful parts of you that you had to give away to be safe, that you gave away because of the dark shadow, because of the shame and the guilt. You're now having a wound of your golden. So I would not be able to be a model if I didn't think that I deserve to be in my shine. Right?
Right.
But so many people will come to me and say, I can't write a book. I don't deserve this. That's scary because when they grew up, they were taught maybe they had a jealous parent. Maybe they had a threatening parent. So anytime they would shine, it'd be taken away from them. So they just learned to live in an upper limits issue and just take it away. Sabotage. Stay here. Don't be too good. Don't be too bad. Just be safe.
Yes.
Golden Shadow will say you can shine and be really safe in yourself no matter what. This is the work most people have to do.
So, okay. So there's the golden shadow and the dark shadow. And are these different parts of like the psyche? And will you explain like kind of like the difference and how to know like what's what? I've actually never heard this in my life. And I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So the dark shadow is, say, if you're identifying with negativity in any way, like your shame or your rejection wound. Like these are all shadow work aspects. Like I have a rejection wound, so I don't let myself do. Well, if you do shadow work, you'll look at your rejection and you'll look at really, like you said, you got to feel to heal. You'll look at why do I feel that? Why have I, let's say, agreed with that? This is doing shadow work, looking at all the deep parts of you that you think are dark, that actually get in the way of your light. And then so I wouldn't say it's psychological. For me, I work on emotion. So I'm sure there is psychological aspects, but the way I speak about it is just emotional. So when I think about, like when I was younger, I was a performer. So I was like a concert pianist and violinist, and then I did all these sports. And I remember literally shaking in my boots anytime I had to go on stage because I didn't think I deserved the shine. I was so nervous of anyone seeing me on stage. I just didn't have any confidence that, I knew who I was in these moments. So I think my escape was like doing all these talented things like music and stuff. Yeah. But when it came down to, performing, I had all this golden shadow work to do that said, no, I'm good at this. I deserve to be winning the awards. See, I didn't believe it. So I would always sabotage myself right before a competition or right before a modeling job or what I'd eat like a pan of brownies. It was just so funny. And I couldn't understand what the hell I was doing, but that was my golden shadow coming and saying, it's not safe in the light. It's not safe being seen. You'll be a target. And that comes from my childhood.
Wow, Candace. Wow. And when I looked at your birth chart, you have Leo as your ascendant. So you're like honestly, just the perfect person to talk to us right now about these collective themes, because right now Venus is finally moving forward in Leo. And that's this exactly, like the ability to feel safe shining. Leo is about having that shine. And because Venus was retrograde in Leo like all summer, a lot of people collectively have been experiencing doubt around their ability to shine, their golden shadow, like just another word for kind of what's been going on. Wow. So I'm just kind of floored. And I shouldn't be surprised. You always just tap right in to like the heart of the matter, the heart of what we need to discuss. But that's really cool. So what would your advice be for people before I start reading your birth chart, which I'm excited to do? What would your advice be for people who maybe are at a point right now where they've realized a lot of things kind of came up over the summer, maybe the past couple weeks. And as they move forward, as we get into Libra season, what's your advice? Like, what are some steps you can take besides obviously like going to your YouTube channel, doing those things to help them? What else?
Do you mean as far as realizing just new things they have to work on and heal?
Let's just say, for example, maybe somebody realized some things over the summer, like that they do need to work on their golden shadow, but they don't know where to start. They're kind of in a place where they're just seeing what's wrong and don't know how to start to tackle it or deal with it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing I always say is get real about how you feel so you can heal. What that means is getting brutally honest with what you're actually feeling. So one way to get in touch with the golden shadows is to say, I feel like so you have to follow it down. Like first we'll have like a nervous feeling, and then you'll say, I'm nervous because, you can write it out. I'm nervous because I feel ashamed. Like it will always come out. I'm ashamed. Why? Because my mom used to put me alone in the room. Why did she put me alone in the room? Because I'm bad. I'm just bad. I'm bad. So that means bad is in the way of your shine.
Okay.
So what that means is I have shame. So where does that come from? Let me now look at evidence to support that I really am bad, or was that just a belief that I need to upgrade from a perception of a child? Then we'll look at things that we thought we were bad, but realize we really weren't. Then we have to do some inner child work to get the inner child self so that we're not separate from our head and our heart. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I get it, but I don't feel any different. I go, yeah, because you haven't done the inner child work to integrate.
Yeah.
So that comes next. But the first thing they need to do is get brutally emotionally honest. What do I feel and why? Don't run from it. Don't make excuses for it, and don't judge yourself for it. What you feel is what you feel, because that is what you experienced.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's such a beautiful process, and it is so healing, and it's really nice. I feel like once you can like feel seen by yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
I was grocery shopping last week, and I literally was just like listening to your YouTube channel. I was like, like, you know, getting recentered. And so I highly recommend anybody in that spot, definitely check out your YouTube channel. Like, go listen to those things. You'll find what's meant for you. And it's really, really helpful. And then you have other courses and things that you offer if people really want to keep going deeper and want more help with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just launched I Am Worthy, which, to be honest, so I did emotional rehab to really find the true self outside of the false self, outside of the societal narrative. Then I did shadow work, which is mother wound, father wound, tribal wounds, golden shadow, dark shadow. And now we have I Am Worthy, which is really the biggest wound that we have to create any of the other wounds. So once we heal, and no one knows how to heal it, but I do. When I put it in this course. I do. But see, people don't understand that unworthiness comes from abandonment, and we self-abandon all the time because we're not being authentic. And then when we have unworthiness, we have insecurity, which creates codependency, which is an external source, which you were talking about, opinions. Yep. You know, so when we heal the codependency because we've gotten rid of the insecurity, it's because we've understood we're worthy, and we only know we're worthy when we stop abandoning our truth. Period.
I like that. Period. Period. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I feel a lot better about putting a little bow on Virgo season now. I hope everybody listening does too. And, you know, just feels good about continuing to do the work. And we're all in it together. We all have our stuff. So don't feel alone. Well, Candace, now in the context of all the things that you do, we thought it would be fun to read your birth chart. So let's dive into that now, because I'm so excited about this. Okay, so let's start with your sun sign, which I'm sure you already know, but your sun is in Cancer, which makes you a person who has a lot of, just in this life, your shine really comes from tapping into that Cancer energy of nurturing. You know, Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. It's all about nurturing, whether it's children of your own, animals, other people, friends. You're someone who naturally is able to create a really warm, cozy environment for people to really, I mean, to heal, but also just to feel loved and safe. And your sun sign really is where you shine. It's where we do a lot of our work in this life. And so if we look at which house, let me see, which house is your sun in? Oh my gosh, no, that's right. Okay. Your sun is in the 12th house, which this 12th house is the house of the subconscious. So it's the most spiritual house. So your shining and your nurturing is in the realm of helping people with their subconscious and spirituality. So, I mean, right? I just astrology in the wild. It's crazy, guys. Okay. And then in addition, you also have Jupiter in your 12th house. Jupiter is abundance, gifts, and luck. Having that in your 12th house of the subconscious, which would be shadow work, healing, trauma. It's also, like I said, spirituality, psychic gifts. Jupiter there expands all that stuff for you. So, and also the sun and Jupiter together there, it's like definitely the main focus of your life. And it's what's going to keep growing, you know, throughout your life. It's where you tap into your abundance, your luck, your gifts. And we see that. We totally see that with what you do. Makes sense. It's also very psychic, obviously. Having your sun in the 12th makes you very psychic and very magnetic. People will be drawn to you and they won't always even understand why, because it's a place of, just kind of pulling people and spiritually connecting to them. Let's see, what else do you have going on? So your first house, your rising sign, and this is really like, I look at it like the way that you view the world. It's kind of like a lot of your identity, I feel like, is first house. Some people say that it's your mask. I think it's your mask for sure. It's how people see you, but I also think it's how you see the world. I think it kind of is a two-way street. So Leo in the first house, or ruling the first house with Mercury and Saturn there, means that you have a lot of emphasis in Leo. So it makes sense that you have a background as a performer, for sure. People with Leo rising also attract attention. You attract the spotlight. So how did you get into modeling and acting, first of all? Actually, I'd love to know.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in San Diego. I lived in Chicago. My mom and I took a trip to San Diego the summer before my junior year, and everyone there, like every restaurant we went to, a waitress would be like, "Are you a model? Are you a model?" They just kept asking me, and my mom's like, "God, this must be a thing for you. Maybe we should really look into it." Yeah, and so we went back to Chicago, and I did this competition called Model Search America. It was very psychic how that happened, by the way.
It was?
Very psychic.
Okay.
And very psychic. I had this spiritual awakening like 2 weeks earlier in Atlanta, Georgia, a church trip.
Okay.
And the universe literally told me, you're going to be modeling. And I was like, what? This is weird. And I go back home. I'm driving in the car with my best friend, Megan, and on the radio, we were just talking about it. It says Model Search America, 6 p.m. at the Hyatt. We look to our left. It's the Hyatt and it's 6 p.m.
Wait,
and so she's like, we're going.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I'm freaking out. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Synchronicity. I was like, wow, there's something to this universal spiritual stuff,
really
right? I was like 15 years old. Crazy. So I didn't have a book. I didn't have photos. I think like Megan had a couple pictures of me in her car. So we go and there's like hundreds of people. And I'm like, Meg, I don't know. I was wearing like Birkenstocks and like ripped jeans. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not ready for this, but I'm feeling the call. And they pick me and they're like, you're going to New York. And I'm like, excuse me. I didn't know if it was real. It was crazy. I'm like, have you seen my outfit? What do you mean you're picking me? But I just knew it was like a divine thing. I was just supposed to do it. And so that summer, my mom and I, we went to the competition in Chicago and like 7 agencies in New York picked me. So I flew out to New York and signed. And then I went back to Chicago and signed in Chicago. And my first audition was an agency in Tokyo. And I got a contract and my career started off in Tokyo the summer I graduated from high school.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. And like another reminder to anyone listening, if you ever get a feeling to do something, we have like that little side of us, it's like, maybe I should, but then sometimes we don't take that left turn. Take the turn. Yeah. Just try.
Take the turn.
If you feel it.
I just remember thinking, I had the chills and I was like, wait, I remembered the message I got from God. I remember, like, I'm talking to Megan about it. We hear it on the radio. I look to my left. I'm like, Megan, this is so divinely guided, which is actually my tattoo. It's so divinely guided that whether I'm cute enough today or not, this is my destiny. And she's like, 100%. She's still my best friend. She's like, 100%. We're going. I don't care what you say. I'm like, yeah, let's go. It was so weird. And then just everything kept going. And of course, a lot of my self-doubt would get in the way at times, but then the path would just keep showing up. And I modeled for how many years? 22 years.
Wow, Candace, that is so cool. I love that. I love that story. And you said that you kind of heard or got a sign, and you said that you clairaudient, clairsentient? What was it? Or both?
So clairsentient is I can feel into someone, and clairvoyance is I can like psychically see things, like visually.
Cool. Do you feel like that was your first connection to realizing those spiritual gifts, or no?
I knew since the time I was really, really young. I had really crazy spiritual experiences. Like one that I remember seeing ghosts like in doorways and things. And then I read about how that's where they appear.
Wait,
I remember I talked to my guardian angel.
Cool.
Her name was Mandy. It's weird. I would have psychic premonitions and like go look in like the rock that I saw. My premonition was there. I remember one day I was like in first grade or something, and I was in elementary school, and there was payphones. And I remember going down to the nurse's office, and I had like this deep emotional sadness, and I couldn't explain it. I'm like, something's wrong. And like I looked at the phone, and I'm like, Grandpa died, and the phone rang to tell the nurse that my grandpa just died.
Oh my gosh.
And I literally said it out loud. Yeah, it was weird. And I would have that all the time with death. Even to this day, I do. Like I had the story with my dog. She was healthy as everything. And one day I was holding her and I got that weird feeling of, wait, something's wrong. And I saw hashtag RIP. And I looked at her. I'm like, Honeybee? She's 7. She's not going to die. She's a chihuahua.
Oh.
The next day, she started having this weird cough. And I was like, that's weird. It's probably her first cold. She's always healthy. No big deal. But I had this gut feeling. And so my husband at the time was like, yeah, she'll be fine. Let's go to lunch. I said, okay, I'm going to let you know. I'm psychic, right? He goes, yeah. I go, if we go to lunch and she's not okay, what are you going to do? He goes, all right, let's get in the car. And we took her to the ER and they told me she's dying. Her heart has a tumor in it and so it's going to explode. So you need to either put her on chemo or wait 24 hours to see if she dies. It was like that.
What?
It was like that.
It was like
and I was
right
like,
now.
I collapsed. I didn't know what they were talking about. I felt it, but I was like, why did I know that? So I always have these weird things. Like, let me tell you one more story because this was really crazy. It was really recent.
Tell me as many as you want. This is amazing. I mean, wow.
This was nuts. And it just keeps getting more and more because I don't push it down, right? Most of us with spiritual gifts push it down because we don't want to be weird or different. I'm like, no, bring it on. So this is weird. So my boyfriend now was my boyfriend 13 years ago before I got married.
Oh my gosh.
So that's another psychic story, but
love it.
So together we had a pit bull. We adopted a pit bull together. That's why I'm just giving you the context. And when I got a divorce, my husband got my pit bull. That's our pit bull because I couldn't have pit bulls where I was moving. And so I'm like, oh, you keep the pit bull. I'll keep the little, golden doodle. Yeah. So for the last month, I've been feeling like my dog, his name is Bodhi. I've been feeling him like calling to me. And I was like, Troy, boyfriend, I'm like, we need to go find Bodhi. Like my ex wasn't letting me see him, whatever. Yeah. And I was like, I think I need to see Bodhi. Like I keep feeling him. And I kept feeling that on and off for a few weeks. And then he and I took a trip to Dominican Republic. And one morning I woke up and I was crying. And I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like something's wrong with Bodhi. Something's wrong with Bodhi. He's like, how are you going to find out? I'm like, I don't know. So I looked on my ex-husband's Instagram page and he posted that morning that he passed away.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm like, babe, I know, because I was like, I felt the dog come to me and say, Mommy, I love you. I'm not mad you couldn't find me. Like, I love you and thank you and goodbye. Like, that's the energy I felt. Similar with my miscarriage. I knew I was miscarrying 5 minutes before I miscarried because the baby came to me. Like weird shit like this happens to me all the time. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm a cry. It's an animal, so just get me right to the heart. So what do you think about that? Like, what do you think the purpose is of them contacting you? Are you having the premonitions or do you know or why it's their time to go? Do you have thoughts about that stuff?
So at the time, like I'll talk about Honeybee's death, I was completely blindsided in every way. However, I was going through a transition in my marriage. And I think, well, I'll tell you about this, but when she was passing, I feel like it was me remembering a timeline that I had already agreed to. I felt like I just saw the spiritual timeline. I didn't understand it and I was not okay with it. But what I kept feeling is nothing happens to me. I know that everything happens for me. So I was like, what do I do? I'm going to love her, put every dollar into this, put every moment. And I didn't leave the house for 6 weeks until she died, literally not. And afterwards, a client of mine was so sweet, got me in touch with this amazing animal medium. And about 2 years after her death, I decided to do that. It took me like 2 or 3 years to get over it. And the medium said exactly what I felt in my heart is that Honeybee and I had a mastery together. So 22 is the tattoo. It's my birthday. It's the day she died. It's my husband's birthday, my stepson's birthday.
Wow.
22. And she told me to die on the 22nd. Like it's a whole thing. And she did in my arms. Nuts. Nutty story.
Wow.
But I knew she was going to die. She told me I'm going to die tomorrow on the 22nd. Don't get someone in here to put me to sleep. That was like the decision. And I was telling my husband this and he's like, I know you sound wacky, but I believe you. I'm like, believe me, she died at 5:20 a.m. in my arms on the 22nd. Great. So I knew it was her time. I didn't understand why, and it didn't make any sense. So the animal communicator told me that for her to leave was going to put me in my biggest power, and I needed that to leave my marriage.
Oh, interesting.
I was codependent on this dog. I needed to be totally in my power to realize I just went through this. This is the most painful thing ever. That'll be a piece of cake.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so many more things. But she was happy. She was an angel with huge wings, being like, look how pretty I am. Like it was totally her personality.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, so that's good. So it was like y'all had this time together that was special, and it was time for it to come to an end, and you were meant to gather your strength up to take on something new, and it was time for you to evolve too. Wow, that is really amazing.
I have to be honest, this sounds so weird, but I think if she would have stayed alive, I would have never broken up my family because my dogs are my kids. And I would have been like, there's no way I'm leaving, even though I know that I needed to, because I don't want her to lose her dad or her brother. I wouldn't have done it.
That makes sense.
I really wouldn't.
I actually get that. I'm an animal person too, so I get that. I really do.
Yeah.
And then when you didn't have that tie anymore, keeping you there, you were able to make more of a break. And like you said, it made you more courageous because you were like, okay, I went through this. So do you feel like part of the healing journey of like breakups and things like that, do you feel like we move on like kind of when we're ready to as well? Because it does feel like a death of a part of us sometimes when we let go of, it's like a whole identity sometimes when you're codependent. Been there too, for sure. So I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, you know, my biggest dream was being married. My biggest nightmare was being divorced, and I've had both. And so what I'll say is, and by the way, my divorce was truly the worst experience I've ever had in my life.
I'm so sorry.
And also then it's been 2 years. I had no idea, I'll be honest. I did not want to get divorced, but I was very clear that we were going like this and there was no turning back. I was very clear. I tried everything.
Yeah.
Tried literally everything. And then I didn't want to accept it, but I remember one day thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to make it. And then when I was the one that was kind of leading it all, I was like, who is this badass chick that hired the lawyers and paid this person and did this and figured it out and moved? And who is this chick? And I had this whole new understanding of who I was that I thought I loved who I was when I was married. I was like, no way, my life could never be better. Now I was like, now I know who I am in a way I never knew, where I was like, you know what? Was it worth it? I can't say no because I love this chick. Like, honestly, it's like totally a different experience.
Absolutely. You know? And that brings us to your midheaven in Aries. So, I mean, Candace, that is so not surprising that you would say that because the midheaven, it's like, it's our 10th. Sometimes it has to do with our 10th house career. Sometimes it doesn't. It can kind of depend, but it's really like your public view. It's like how people see you. The midheaven, it's the highest point in your birth chart. And for you to have it in Aries, which is independent, a trailblazer, the opposite of Libra. Libra is about harmony and partnership. Aries is going to burn the bridge so they don't come back. It's like very different energy. And so you stepping into that really is stepping into the highest part of your chart, even though there's always a painful process. Like the hero's journey, it's not smooth, right? It's a lot of things. Like you're going to go into the moat and you're going to be terrified. And it sounds like that's what you were kind of doing to reach that midheaven high point. That's so badass.
That makes so much sense. That makes literally all the sense in the world.
I love that. And I'm so happy that you reach that high point for you. Your 7th house is ruled by Aquarius, which is interesting. You don't have a lot of energy in your 7th house of partnership. The way that the chart is, the more planets you have in a certain house, the more emphasis or lessons you have around certain themes. So for you, you have a really packed 2nd house, which contains your Venus, Mars, and North Node. So your 2nd house is ruled by the sign of Virgo, meaning Virgo season is important for you, but also it's what you're attracted to in love. It is your motivation, Mars. It's also your purpose. And the 2nd house is money and self-worth. So really the emphasis is you. I feel like you're the main character of your life, even more so than other people's charts. And she's like, yes, Leo rising. Thank you, I am. But it makes
That's so funny. It's all about me.
But you're meant to experience self-worth and that strength. I mean, you don't have one planet in your 7th house. And Aquarius, to have a 7th house ruled by Aquarius, that doesn't mean that you're not meant for great love, because you are, we all are. But it's interesting because Aquarius typically talks about the collective. So for you to have Aquarius, the sign of the collective, ruling your 7th house of one-to-one partnerships, it's really almost like the experiences that you have with partnerships are meant to help you with the way you relate to the collective. You know what I mean? So
that, can I tell you how that makes sense
please
right now?
do.
You're going to freak.
Please do.
So I'm like, this is so funny. So I told you my boyfriend and I from 13, 14 years ago just got back together 2 years ago.
It's
and
so cool.
He creates events and retreats for a living, and that's what I'm doing now in my work. And I'm like, oh, together we're helping the collective.
Oh my God.
And he's an Aquarius. He's an Aquarius
Stop
too.
it. Okay, done. I'm done. I'm free. Like, that's amazing. Well, and that
I was like,
that is an aligned relationship, like 1000%. And you already know that and feel that, but we can even see it in your chart. Yeah. Oh my God. That's
I know.
Really cool.
It's so funny too, because that's what he does for a living is he does charity events.
He's an
so he produces celebrity charity events.
Yeah, it's funny.
And I'm like,
oh my God. I love that so much. That's awesome. Oh my God. I love that. I love that. Yeah. It's amazing. You also have, let's see, your third house of communication and like community is ruled by Libra, which is like beauty, balance, harmony. And you have Pluto there. So Pluto is transformation, deep themes, and you communicate about transformation. So, I mean, like, okay, we're like, yes, we see this. Let me see. Oh, the other interesting one is always Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, which you talk about that a lot in your videos and stuff. And the wounded healer, you have that in your 10th house of career, which is ruled by the sign of Taurus, which is all about making money. And Taurus is very like luxurious. It's also an earth sign. So to have Chiron in the 10th house means that you are not only healing yourself, but other people through your choice of career, which you are. So it's like, oh my God, I love all this.
I'm feeling very aligned right now.
Candace, I feel like you've reached like that peak alignment moment. Because everything
I feel like I have too.
In your chart, it's just is like, it really does check. I mean, it's really, you've checked all the boxes of now you get to live in your alignment and keep influencing the world. I mean, I love it. It's so amazing. Let's see. Is there anything else that you want to know about that you've ever wondered?
You know, this is a big one. I don't know if charts would even say anything about this, but I'm doing this big move and I can work from anywhere, right? With what I do. And I don't feel a place calling me. And I'm like, I had someone do a chart once and tell me like different places I might go, but I do not feel a call. I think it's going to be a lot of movement, to be honest.
Astrocartography is what we have to do to know, but it really depends on like what you want to get from this place. Because astrocartography basically takes like your chart and all of these lines and like puts them on a map. And so if you travel to like your sun line, you're going to experience sun type of qualities. With your sun in Cancer, that would be a place to experience Cancerian themes of like being really nurtured, feeling at home. If you wanted to like, let's see, like acting in or be on TV, you'd probably want to move to, let's see, you have a Leo ascendant. So a sun line would also be good for that for you. But it just kind of depends on like the lifestyle you're wanting to live at this part of your life. And then we could find the line.
You know, I'll be honest with you. Like I'm such a city and then relaxed girl. Like I need both. But one of my ideas is having two homes, one in the Caribbean perhaps, and then one in the States. And like,
we love this idea.
That's what I'm thinking is happening.
I like that. Yes, I'm behind that idea. And this is weird. I don't even know why this came to mind. I don't even know if I don't know. I was just thinking like, what about a place like where there's a city, but then you're really close to like the country or vice versa? Like not saying move there, but like, what about like Nashville or something where you could have a bunch of land and like a farm and a bunch of animals. And then you could like drive into the city, something like that. It'd be cool.
I was just talking about Nashville this morning. It's so funny. We are so connected. Yeah, I was.
I just had a vision of seeing you there. I don't know. That was weird.
So did I. This morning. It's very strange. I have no idea because I've only been to Nashville one time, and that was like literally 15 years ago. So I don't know. But my boyfriend is in Atlanta and he's like, well, we could live in Atlanta and then Dominican Republic because it's a 2-hour flight. And I was like, that could work.
Yes,
that
could really work. So the last time we kind of talked on Instagram, it was when I just been in the DR on my honeymoon. We were DMing and you went to the DR right after.
Right.
So you loved it there, huh?
I loved it. We go all the time. His event is there. What's that?
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
It's beautiful.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I love Punta Cana, Cap Cana. Mm-hmm. His next event is in 2 weeks there.
So you're going to go?
And that's when I'm going to do my retreat. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, like we're waiting to see a few things, but I'm like super in love with it there. I think just because I know everything now and it's really easy and it's beautiful and I just dig it.
If you can work from anywhere, why not there, right? I mean, so what I'll do after we get off here, what I'll do, because it's going to take me a little bit to draw it up, but I will look up Nashville on your chart and I'll look up the DR. Are there any other places? And then I'll just shoot you an email and tell you like what each one is.
That'd be amazing. The other ones are Atlanta, because that's where I'm supposed to be going now, and Chicago, which where I'm from, but I really love it again there.
Okay.
I'm in Vegas right now, and Vegas is like whatever, you know what I mean?
I lived there for 2.5 years growing up back in the day with my fam.
Wow.
So yeah. Are you in like Henderson or Summerlin?
Summerlin.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I lived when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
It's crazy. It's nice. It's like people don't realize it's more of a city. It has like that kind of desert vibe. Yeah. It's not just.
Yeah. It's a strange place here. It's a very interesting place.
It's different. Vegas. It's different. I think it's a good place to have a transitional period for your life though.
That was me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to get on that. And then Candace, thank you so much. This was such a fun chat, such a fun hangout.
So good.
Will you tell everybody where they can find you, work with you? I know you have so many amazing ways for people to just keep healing. And clearly she's got all the stuff. I mean, look at this. South, like the North Node in Virgo 12th house. So like she knows what she's talking about.
Thank you. My website is CandaceVanDell.com. My YouTube is also that. Instagram is that. I have many, many, many courses, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, monthly membership. There's so many things. There's like 500 free videos on YouTube that you just get free and have like literally spiritual studies if you want. And I just love doing it. So, and if you come and say hi, let me know you found me from you. And that would be really fun. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, Candace, thank you so much. This was amazing. And I will talk to you soon.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, lovely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of In the Cards and Stars. I feel so refreshed. I feel ready to tie Virgo season up in a pretty bow and just move forward into Libra season and feeling more balanced and really ready to like tackle some of those Virgo season themes that came up, right? I hope you guys feel stronger too and more willing to just love and accept yourself for the good, the not so good, the difficult, and just know that, like Candace says, we're all feeling, we're all healing, and you are definitely worthy of being loved. So I hope you guys feel reset as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe because we have all new episodes that come out every single week. And I can't wait for the next one. I'll see you guys next time.
Yay Networks.